Now, today, President Trump doubled down on his ominous warning while meeting with his top generals that maybe this is the calm before the storm. Here's what he said last night.
You guys know what this represents? Well, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm is
We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we'll have a great evening. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Give us a hint on your decision.
Thank you, everybody.
President Trump also said that he expects his top military advisors to give him a broad range of military options at a much faster pace. And it's all raising questions of whether or not the president is listening to his generals. We now turn to retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, former Republican congressman from Florida as well. Colonel West, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you.
It feels that major decisions are on the way with respect to Iran and North Korea. It feels like these decisions perhaps will involve some pushback against Rex Tillerson's General Mattis. And it also feels like President Trump has drawn a strong, rigid, red line with respect to North Korea. Where do you think we are right now?
Well, Charles, I tell you that if you're going to have an effective foreign policy, you have to also make sure you have a credible military deterrent. And I think that's one of the important things that we need to have on the table. And I think that's some of the options that the president is looking to those military leaders from the Pentagon to be able to present. Let's understand that we're living in a very dangerous time. I know that we have been so concerned about what has happened in Las Vegas, and all of my condolences to those who have lost their lives there. But we lost 3 U.S. Army Special Forces Green Beret this week in the country of Niger due to an ambush from al-Qaeda in the Maghreb. That's an organization that has grown in North Africa, and they're starting to extend their reach in sub-Saharan Africa. Right. And we know about in Nigeria, Boko Haram. So I think the president needs to sit down and look at what I call the geographic combatant commands, the PACOMs, the AFRICOMs, CENTCOMs, and we need to start looking at an effective strategy that is threat-based and unfortunately move us away from this budget-based military that we have so decimated.
And by the way, I think the death toll has now gone to 4. I'm going to check on that, but I think I saw that breaking news. Colonel West, please stay with us because I want to bring in a panel now. Fred Felitz is a former CIA analyst currently with the Center for Security Policy, and Kayleigh McEnany is the spokeswoman for the RNC. Kayleigh, let me go with you here because a lot of what we're seeing also is the mainstream media stoking the notion of infighting, of disruption, of total dismay, if you will, within the Trump campaign, Trump organization. This week, it was Tillerson versus President Trump.
Yeah, the media is stoking the narrative, as they always are. They're making false stories. We saw Rex Tillerson come out and forcefully deny that this was ever said in the form of his spokesperson after he said those comments earlier. They're creating discord. It's doing a disservice to the American people, particularly when the times are as perilous as they are now on the foreign policy front. When
President Trump tweeted that Tillerson might be wasting his time with Bomb Boy or something to that effect, does that interfere, or is it to what Colonel West is sort of alluding to? In this situation, you've got to have someone who's coming on really, really strong, particularly as you're trying to negotiate a democratic solution. Certainly, you have to have both. And I think President Trump is being a realist when he says it doesn't appear that, Rocket Man, as he calls him, is really interested in negotiations, particularly when he's shooting off ballistic missiles at the rate he is. Fred, the anxiety, though, the knot is getting tighter and tighter. We can feel it. We sense, I think, almost everyone, that something is going to happen very shortly. And when President Trump starts to talk about doing what he must do, people don't want to hear it. But to Kayleigh's point, it seems like he is being realistic.
I think he's being realistic, Charles. I don't think a shooting war with North Korea is on the horizon in the immediate future. I think that when he says something's going to happen, he probably is referring to the Iran deal. I think it's likely the president is going to decertify. And the question everybody's wondering, is he going to actually pull out of this deal, which I think he really has to do since he called this deal an embarrassment to the United States.
Colonel West, Tom Cotton has been working with the White House. He wrote a pretty in-depth piece, if you will, on why the president has the right to decertify this deal, and arguing that it should go back to Congress the way by the way, the way it should have gone in the first place.
Well, you're absolutely right. And when you look at the behavior of Iran since this nuclear deal, it has gotten even more belligerent, even more obtuse. We know that Iran is colluding with North Korea with the advancement of nuclear weapons technology and also the delivery means. But Iran has been testing ballistic missiles and firing ballistic missiles, which is a violation of the JCPOA. Iran has gone out and bought and sold conventional weapons and arms, such as the S-300 surface-to-air missile system. But you continue to see Iran exporting their terrorism because you openly have the Quds Force and also their proxy army, Hezbollah, operating in Syria. And we know that Israel just recently attacked Hezbollah there. So they're not living up to the code and the honor of that Iranian nuclear agreement.
Certainly the spirit of the deal is out the window a long time ago. Kayleigh, Sarah Huckabee Sanders taking on all of these questions during the daily briefing and saying that bottom line is President Trump, he really takes seriously his commitment to keep the public safe. And that might mean offensive actions were needed around the world.
Look, she's exactly right. He takes this very seriously, particularly when he hears things like what Congressman West just said, all of the ways that Iran is violating this agreement. And I can tell you, President Trump, I'm sure, is looking very closely at what Senator Tom Cotton has sent to Rex Tillerson, a letter listing all of those violations, including the building of heavy water stocks, by the way, which are used to advance plutonium and enrich it to the point of getting a nuclear weapon.
Right. All right, guys. Thank you all very much.